You know, sometimes it's so funny when you're an author. I've been an author officially for about 3 years now. Pero when you're reading your book, parang I read it and I go, ako ba talaga nagsabi nito? I was reading this portion where it really hit home. It says here in my book, sabi ni Patrick Mabilog, kung sino man yun, burnout can be a messy place, and it's a place that many of us will find ourselves in on multiple occasions. Alam mo, after so many years of, talking about burnout and resting, I can still say that I still experience burnout. Sometimes it can come as a shock, It's like you wrote a book about burnout, pero you still struggle with it. Yeah, yes, I still do, and I've never sugarcoated that. I said that in the book that I don't think that I'll ever come to a point where I perfect this, but of course I want to progress and grow in this. Parang I think break was such an amazing milestone for me. But I'm realizing that there should be more pages to this. There should be empty pages to this, because I've come to realize so many new things as well. Of course, there were a lot of questions from people who would message me on social media, would email me, would reach out to me and ask me hard questions. And many of those questions, to be honest, I did not have the answers to right away. Like, frontliners would ask, so how do we rest? Kasi we don't have fixed days off. Many of those questions I've answered, maybe not completely. I hope I've answered them correctly and accurately. But one very common question is, why do I still feel tired even after I rested? I just finished my day off naman. I just came from Saturday, Sunday. Pero every Monday, I still feel tired. I go home in the middle of the night, and then I get 8 hours of sleep naman. Pero when I wake up in the morning, I still feel tired. And that's a common question, and I want to answer that question today here in this vlog. I think the main reason why a lot of people still feel tired even after their day off is, I think it's because we get rest wrong. We don't understand the true meaning of rest, or there are some aspects of rest that we still don't fully understand. And by the grace of God and like constantly trying to progress in this area, I've come to realize that there are facets of rest, and more specifically in the context of God's heart for us when it comes to rest, that I've slowly started to realize more and more. And I want to share 3 of those realizations with you today that hopefully will answer that question. Why do I still feel tired even after my day off or my Sabbath? So let's dive straight into it. So what are these 3 reasons why we still feel tired even after we rest? So the first is because we don't plan our rest days. Truth of the matter is, when we think about rest days, we think that it's supposed to be a spontaneous thing, right? And so we don't have a plan. We just say, you know what, let's put an open calendar. We don't put activities in there. Think of it this way. Imagine that you have a box at home. I live in a house where Orocan is, it's the pambansang favorite of everyone, because Orocans means that they can fill those things up with whatever they want. So the kids will, say, oh, Dad, I still have space in the Orocan. Can we buy more toys? Or my wife will, say na, oy, Orocan, can put, pang baking stuff in there or whatever. And so, empty boxes. And when you have an empty box, the thing about an empty box is, you have an empty box, or if we buy a box, there has to be a purpose right away. Because if we don't have a purpose for it yet, and we just have empty boxes, there's a very big chance that it will get filled up with, sorry for the term, but trash. Okay, maybe not trash like paper or honest things that really don't have any value. When I realized that even if you have an empty box, it will still get filled up anyways. Especially if you have kids, it will still get filled up. Even if you're single na you tend to still fill those things up because there's always something to put in that box. Now, likewise, when it comes to our schedules, more specifically our rest schedules, whether we keep our schedules empty or full, it will still get filled up. Sometimes it will get filled up with things that we don't want. Think of a couple of examples. When we are not deliberate about filling up our schedules with things that can give us rest, and I'll talk about that more in point number 2. Then your boss calls you and says, Kiko, can you come to work today? Can you work on this today? And the natural tendency is we can't say no to that because we do not have anything, else on our plate. Tendency is it's so hard to say no because wala naman talaga akong gagawin eh. So we fill it up with other things. We fill it up with, work requests. We fill it up with binge watching Netflix, even if we say na isang oras lang ako today, just one episode, and then all of a sudden you realize that you finished one whole series. Diba? We when we're not deliberate about our rest days, when we don't plan them out, it gets filled up with things that we don't want in there anyways. I mean, sometimes we fill it up with social media. Parang you realize that you've been on Facebook for 8 hours already, tos your whole rest day was gone. Or you said that you were going to check lang yung email mo for a really short period, and then wala na, it's gone. So one thing that I've been trying to do as deliberate as I can is I try to plan out my rest days and put it in deliberately with things that can really bring me rest, which brings me to point number 2. Second reason why people don't really rest is because they don't put their rest days with things that fill their bucket. One other thing I talked about in break, the picture of filling your bucket. What are you filling your bucket with? I mean, your life, your heart, your mind is a bucket. One thing we need to realize is that we have control over what goes in that bucket. Now, what do you put into your bucket? When it comes to rest days, I hope that you are deliberate about filling your bucket up with things that do give you true rest. Because when it comes to our work days, we are in the mode of giving. For the most part, anyways, we are giving to people. We are serving. We are we're racking our brains creatively. We're giving a portion of ourselves to others, to our boss, to our workmates, to our clients, to our customers. And so during the rest days, that should be a time where you start to receive naman. You need to be very deliberate and careful about what we're filling our bucket with. Are you filling your bucket with the right things? Kasi akala natin, like for example, I go back to the example of social media. We think that, time on Facebook, that's rest. But I realize now, especially now where social media is so electric. I remember one day I was just, I was taking a break from work. And I was just going through Facebook videos. Alam mo yung algorithm, I watched one video on traffic mishaps, people who would get into mishaps. When I was watching that, I thought, what, this is I'll just watch this so that I can clear my brain. But as I watched it, I kind of felt, this anger kind of build up inside of me. I realized that because when I was watching the videos and then my daughter came to me, I kind of snapped on her. I was like, what's going on here? And I realized that I was filling my bucket with the wrong things. Now we need to be careful about what we're filling our bucket with. Are you filling it up with things that charge you up and that actually build up some level of positivity, so a level of grace, of peace in you? Or are you filling it up with things that just height up your dopamine and make you more stressed in the guise of I'm resting when you're actually not? Now, what are some things that do give you rest? Some fail-safe things. Number 1 is always relationships. Alam mo, minsan the big trap is to say na, well, I'm spending time with my family, we're watching a movie. Pero minsan we have to be careful about that kasi sometimes you're watching a movie, you're not really spending quality time with the kids naman. Now, I'm not saying that you don't watch a movie together. You can definitely do that. What I'm saying is, what are the things that can really cultivate your relationships? Second is hobbies. I love to create music because it fills my bucket. Obviously, it can be different for all of us. I love to hear in the comment section what fills your bucket. What are the good things that fills your bucket? Get in the comment sections below. Comment sections. Dami ko. One section. Comment section below. So 2 things so far. Number 1, why do we get rest wrong? Because we don't plan our rest days. Number 2 is because we're not filling our bucket with the right things. And third is because we leave God out of the picture. In Matthew 11:28, he said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." The promise of God and the promise of Jesus specifically is that there will be rest in a relationship with Him. Now, when we come to God, when we approach God, that's where we experience unfailing rest. And sometimes when you are extremely tired physically, emotionally, spiritually, there's just that coming to the presence of God that really helps. When you come to Him in prayer, when you spend time reading the Word, when you worship in private, experience church community in corporate worship. I believe that there is wisdom in putting our rest days along with corporate worship in the context of church community, and I think that's a deliberate effort. That's something that God has commanded us to do because it gives us rest. I mean, community, it's coming to God. And And the moments, and I believe, I mean, some of the more practical things, I mean, those moments in the morning, what's the first thing that you pick up? Do you pick up your phones, or do you pick up your Bible? And I'm so convicted by that, because there are still times that I pick up my phone naman. So I don't want you to think na I'm perfect and holy. Truth of the matter is, I mean, we all do need to realize this, that many times we do leave God out of the picture. And I'm also guilty of this, where the rest days that we have, or even not the rest days, but even the day-to-day that you have in the office, are you still looking for those small moments where you can speak to God? Sometimes you have like 5 minutes, 2 minutes while you're uploading a video, or while you're waiting for a response from your boss, where you can just sit down and start talking to God and cultivating that relationship with God, and allowing Him to fill you. I think this really kind of applies to point number 2 as well, but in a whole new level, because when it comes to our buckets, our buckets should always be filled with the presence of God. When we're deliberate about that, we don't just experience rest in a practical sense, the parang okay, or a temporal sense. There's a supernatural rest that comes from a relationship with God. And in the same way that some shoes might provide different quality compared to other shoes, I believe that the quality of rest that we experience in the presence of God, nothing compares to it. I would still find rest in certain things, in music, in reading, and relationships. But when I get close to God, the kind of rest that I receive from Him, nothing compares. And if you haven't received that, maybe ever, or if you haven't received that in a long time, then I encourage you, don't leave God out of the picture, especially on your rest days. So those are just 3 of the, I'm sure, many other reasons why we can still feel tired after days off. And I'm sure there's many other reasons, but I just wanted to leave you with those 3. So out of those 3, again, comment section below, I'd love to hear which one really struck you the most. I mean, which one do you want to work on, especially in this upcoming week, and how are you going to do that? So let's keep this engaging. I really want, more than anything, not that it won't just be an exchange of information, but that you can really apply this in your life as well. So thank you so much for watching this video. Really appreciate. This is video number 2. I hope to do more in the future. And please do subscribe if you haven't yet, so that you'll be notified as well. There's a bell button that comes with the subscribe button, so you know that there's new videos coming out. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.